since my Slovenian is not nearly as good as Tamara's, I will switch to English for this talk. So first of all, I really want to say welcome to you and thank you all for coming. As Tamara mentioned, as far as I understood, it is a really important topic and we really want to raise awareness about it and talk about it as much as we can. So we are covering this topic from various perspectives. So today we will be talking about design. But we also had our talks regarding mobile development, web development, testing, and I'm hoping that you will hear them here as well soon. Okay, so regarding our talks for this evening, first I will start with just giving you a short introduction into accessibility as a topic. Then our guest, Gal, will tell you more about accessibility in web development, and then Ana and Emmanuel will switch over to design. So let's kick it off. So my name is Ana. I'm currently working as a product owner here in Infinum. I've been with Infinum for more than 6 years now. I started my career here as a QA and then did a career switch to product team. So the project I'm currently working on is our collaboration with Philips. So I'm working on an application that was formerly known as Nutri-U. Now we rebranded to Home ID this month. So currently we are having 1.4 million monthly active users, which is a pretty impressive number. So if you're using any Philips kitchen appliances, give it a shot. We have really cool recipes there. Regarding my talk for this evening, I will jump into what accessibility actually is. Then I will give you a more context on why is it so important. And then I will just conclude with a couple of things regarding our accessibility initiative here in Infinum. So what actually is accessibility? Based on the definition that we see on Wikipedia, it is the design of products, devices, services, vehicles, or environments so as to be usable by people with disabilities. And when you see it like that, it makes a complete sense. But to fully understand this definition, we first need to understand what disability actually is. And you can see the definition here. So it is an impairment which in interaction with various barriers may hinder full and effective participation of an individual in a social environment. And what is the most important thing here? And that is the most important thing of my talk at all. And if there is one idea that I want you to bring home with you from my talk, it is this one. It's not the impairment by itself that is causing the disability, it's the barriers that we as a society impose on those people. So what are we talking about when we talk about that? So we have two different models when we think about disability. We can think about it in medical model or a social model. So when we think about it in a medical model, we see disability as a problem that needs to be solved. And when that impairment is solved, then that person will no longer have any disabilities and will be able to participate in the society. But what with the cases when that cannot be done? What with the cases when the people who are actually having those impairments don't want to remove them at all? It's not that impairment by itself that is causing issues to these people. So the barriers that we have all the time, that these people interact with all the time in our society, it is the really main issue here. And I'll give you a couple of examples. For example, if a person with a hearing impairment comes to cinema, like they can follow a movie if they have closed captions. So it's not, if they are not able to follow the movie, it's not their impairment that is blocking them, it is the fact that we don't have closed captions there. And when we translate that to digital world, for example, a person with visual impairment is perfectly capable of, for example, paying their bills with an m-banking app. But if we didn't do our job well when we were developing it, and if we don't have proper accessibility labels, then that person will not be able to do that. So yet again, they can do things, but it's the barriers that are the issue. So here are some positive examples on how we can influence on things like this on a society level. So this is one campaign from Lancome. And I believe it's a great example of this. So this is a woman with a dexterity issue, so hand mobility issues. What is the case here? Lancome created this gadget that actually helps people with dexterity issues to apply lipstick in a proper way. So like a woman or anybody else with dexterity issues is perfectly capable to applying a lipstick in a perfect way. They just need the right tool. And also one positive example that I saw in my environment is Tuškanac Cinema. So it's a small cinema in Zagreb, and they're doing one thing they call sensory projections. So that is actually a projection of a movie, cartoon usually, that is organized for kids with sensory impairments. So for example, when you come to that projection, lights are not completely shut down, they're dimmed. The sound is a little bit toned down. And of course, the most important thing, like nobody cares if a kid wants to stand up, do a little dance, or repeat a dialogue they just heard. So it's a very positive example on how we can actually do the right thing and include neurodivergent people in the community. And why is this so important? And why does this matters, especially for us in digital world as well? It's the users, it's the people. So they are the first and the most important thing. So we have, based on the last data from the World Health Organization, it is from March 2023. They usually updated this data in March. It hasn't been updated yet. But based on this data, we have 1.3 billion people living with some sort of disability currently. So it is around 16% of world's population. So, and when we talk about disability in this context, there is like we are including everything, like hearing disabilities, cognitive, visual. So there is a lot of different types of disabilities, and this number includes them all. But there is also one important thing when we talk about users and people, and that is actually boomers. Boomers are the wealthiest population in the world currently, but they are one of the largest populations, one of the largest demographic cohorts currently, and they are now between 60 and 80 years old, which means that they are also facing issues like visual impairments, hearing impairments, and we also need to think about them when we are creating our products. The other thing why accessibility is so important is something that is called the curb cut effect. So what is the curb cut effect? So it started all in somewhere around 60s in the last century, when a couple of students from Berkeley that were wheelchair users, they got really mad because of the fact that they could not go from the sidewalk to the street. So they had issue like passing this yes, thank you. What did the society do? What did they fight for? To have this little ramp. And now we have it. Now that is something that we don't even realize that it's there. And it's not only used by wheelchair users. So if you are riding a bike or skateboard, or you have some luggage with you, or you have a kid on wheels, like you really need to have this to be able to walk freely around on the streets. So it is a perfect example on how when we develop something for people with disabilities, actually everybody will have some use of it. And there's also, like, when we are talking about disability, we often mention like people with permanent disabilities. We usually think about that. But there is also, this is something, this is a model developed by Microsoft, which is explaining accessibility personas. So in any point in life, we can end up anywhere here. So we can have some permanent disability, like in this case we can have like only one arm because something happened to us and there was some accident. But also maybe we had an arm injury. So it was a skiing accident and now we cannot use one of our hands. And also there is a situational disability where, for example, I'm currently in a shopping mall and I'm carrying some bags or I'm carrying a baby. So when we take this into account, we can easily see how all of the disability aimed features are actually helping everyone. And the third thing why accessibility is really important and what we need to keep in mind is laws and regulations. So Tamara already mentioned that there is a new regulation that is coming soon. So there is something called European Accessibility Act. I will tell you more about it. But before we jump into the laws and regulations, we first need to understand the guidelines that all of those laws and regulations are actually based on. So there is something called WCAG or WCAG. There's a lot of discussions on how this should be pronounced. But basically it's an acronym of Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So it was created by W3C and it's actually covering everything that digital products need to follow in order to be accessible. It is a very big document and it's a bit harder to grasp, so I don't want to go into any details because it would take you probably the whole night. But what are some important facts about these guidelines? So first thing that is very important is that they're mainly focused on web, as you can see from their title, so Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And although they can be applicable to mobile, it is very hard to understand that when you are just reading these guidelines. So what we did in Infinum, like 2 years ago when we started with Accessibility Initiative, we actually translated these guidelines from web to mobile. So you can find it in our Accessibility Handbook. We have a very comprehensive mobile standards, and that can help you when building native apps. So this is also something that WCAG recognizes as their failure. So they're planning with their next version, WCAG 3.0, they're planning actually to rename it. So it will no longer be Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, but it will be Worldwide Web Consortium Accessibility Guidelines. So that actually it will cover the mobile as well. But release date was planned in a year, but based on how late these previous versions were, I believe it will not be there so soon. And also one important thing to mention that there are 3 levels of accessibility in WCAG. So there is A, which basically means that your app is not completely unusable. There is AAA, which means that your app is actually aiming towards people with disability, so it's very, very well accessible. And there is this middle ground, AA, which is mostly used for all laws and regulations out there. When it comes to laws and regulations, since here in Infinum we mostly work with American clients and the clients from European Union, I will just give a short overview of the regulation in those countries. So in the United States we have something called ADA. It was signed somewhere at the beginning of 90s and it actually includes both public and private sector. So it has a section that is completely applicable to digital products, and it is applicable to both government applications and to day-to-day applications that we also build. When it comes to European Union, in European Union so far this regulation, which is called European Accessibility Act, was only applicable to governmental apps. But from 28th June of 2025, it will be applicable to private sector as well, which means that if you have an app that is not accessible, you can get sued. So this is something also, this is important thing to keep in mind because in the United States that is a big topic, but we don't talk about it that much on this side of ocean. Then I would just like to give you an overview regarding our initiative about accessibility here in Infinum. So we started with this topic somewhere in 2021. And so it was a couple of enthusiasts who were very interested in this topic, and we really wanted to make our products better. And then it started very small, like the initiative came from the QA team. And then what did we do? We basically were like cherry picking people from each team who had some interest in this topic. And then we created a very like cross-team initiative where we had advocates from all teams. So we had people from Android and iOS, we had JavaScript on board, we had WordPress, design of course, and we did a thorough research and we created some documents. One of them, the most important one, is our accessibility handbook. And it is public to all, and feel free to check it out. It really has some useful info there. We structured it as a project, so we are having a lot of plans and initiatives for it. One of them are these talks. So this is something that is very important for us. And our core goals were, and still are, first to actually acquire knowledge. Because accessibility topic is a very broad one. You will hear from Gal and Ana and Emmanuel. We will now just talk about like tip of the iceberg, but the topic is huge and like there are a lot of interesting things to learn. Also, we wanted to not keep it only on theoretical level. We really wanted to apply it on our products and projects that we are working on. So this is something that we are also doing. And some of the most important things for us were actually to start a dialogue in the community and to share our knowledge. So it took a lot of time for us to come where we are currently and to learn everything. And as much as we learned, we realized that there is yet so much to understand and to grasp. So this is something that is super important for us. And we are thankful for all of you that you came here. And if you have any questions for us, any comments, please feel free to stay afterwards and talk with us. Feel free to find us on LinkedIn and ask questions. That would be great. And that would be it from my side. Just wanted to give you a short overview of this. And if you have any questions now, please shoot. Okay.
Comments and questions.
Of course.
Thank you.
If not so far, then we can proceed. But feel free to stay afterwards. And thank you so much.